On June 18th, Mars, the planet of drive and willpower, finally leaves Leo and enters the sacred workspace of Virgo. This is more than just a sign change. It is a call to action rooted not in ego, but in service. After months of emotional upheaval and fire-fueled retrogrades, we are being asked to now refine, to heal, and to rebuild with intention. Mars in Virgo does not seek the spotlight, it seeks purpose. It's the quiet force behind progress, the steady hand that mends what has been frayed. And just days after this shift, Mars forms a sextile to Jupiter in Cancer, offering a rare gift: momentum that's aligned with compassion, action rooted in intuition, a path forward that doesn't require us to push, just to move with care and clarity. If you felt burnt out, emotionally wrung out, or unsure how to begin again, this moment says start small. Start where it matters, because from the ground up, we are invited to rebuild our lives in a way that actually nourishes us, not just impresses others. In today's video, we are going to explore the deep medicine of Mars in Virgo, how its sextile to Jupiter in Cancer can help you grow something meaningful, and why this moment isn't about perfection, it is about devotion, my friends. Now, devotion is a strong word. It means many different things to many different people. We all have different things in our lives that we feel we are devoted to, whether we are forced into those devotions or they are like kind of like a spiritual calling in a way. Because sometimes our devotions are, of course, aligned with things that we deeply want in this life or want to create in this life. And sometimes we are devoted to things that were forced upon us. And like, I know it may sound weird because when we hear the word devoted, we hear this is like a personal thing, right? And eventually devotion is deep. It is a deeply personal thing, but there are things in this life we do become devoted to that can be harmful for us. Now, I'm not saying this is about that at all. I'm just trying to make a comparison to the fact that devotion can really manifest in multiple ways. And depending on what you are devoted to, really can start a conversation potentially within yourself. Now, when we deal with sextiles from Jupiter or Mars in Virgo to Jupiter, I would like to say this is a calling to ask yourself, like, what can I devote myself to, maybe in a quieter, more methodical, behind the scenes kind of way? Or what can I do that allows me to get a little bit more grounded and quiet so I can work in a more devoted, more aligned, emotionally aligned way in the Virgo part of your life and the Cancer part of your life, which the Cancer part of our lives are very much getting squared by the early degrees of Aries with Saturn and Neptune. So there's a lot going on when this sextile begins on June 18th and will, pretty much stick with us for weeks until Jupiter kind of cruises on. And then Mars, of course, is going to fly throughout the first half of the summer through Virgo. But the energies between Jupiter and Mars are going to be important for us all. Because Mars is a planet of drive and willpower, but it also wants to provide service, and it wants to get in the earth and get dirty with us in a way, but in like a great way where we can really get to work in a way that is very straight and narrow, And when I say straight and narrow, I mean, just, it's not going to be as flamboyant as like Leo. Virgo is definitely more behind the scenes. Okay, it doesn't really want acknowledgement all the time. It just wants to quietly and methodically get things done. And Mars in Virgo, I think, is wonderful for that. So motivation becomes methodical. That is a wonderful way to put Mars in Virgo. Motivation becomes methodical. Mars in Virgo shifts drive from ego and emotion to precision and usefulness. It's less about grand gestures and more about fixing what is broken, refining what's messy, and taking meaningful small-scale action. So we really have to get clear on what the Virgo part of our life is. So please tell me, where's Virgo in your birth chart? I feel like I haven't talked about Virgo in a hot minute. I mean, same thing with my last video I put out on the full moon in Sagittarius. I feel we haven't talked about Sagittarius in a long time. So Virgo is the same deal. Virgo, is a place in our life where we do analyze. We do very much want to be as methodical as possible there, or there is a lack of that and we are off balance. So, and then that's where we can get into realms of psychological issues involving perfectionism, OCD, things like that. So if you have any of those things, right, that is because your Virgo placement is unbalanced and you're not really coming to that part of your life in a more aligned way where you can really show up in a way that, I guess, you're probably not showing up in a way that is helping you be methodical in a way that is beneficial to yourself and other people, right? Because all of us really have something we want to offer the world and ourselves to make us feel good and grounded. And whenever we're not grounded, I don't care how spiritual you are always going to be floating around in your thoughts in the mental space or in the spiritual realms, and you're going to lose touch with reality, okay? And we need to stay grounded. Focus with me, right? Track with me. So this is going to be a great transit for all major Virgo placements, by the way, because Mars in Virgo, it wants to come in and again, maybe give you that motivation to kind of clean up some shit, give you that motivation to, and also to have that opportunity, right? Sextiles are opportunities. They're not trines where they're guaranteed fluid energies that are transferring back and forth in a harmonious way. Sextiles are, no, here's a door you can walk through. There's opportunity here for you, but you don't have to walk through it if you don't want to. Life will move on. You'll be fine, or maybe you won't be fine, but I don't know. The sextile just provides an opportunity for growth that can be beneficial. So that is what a sextile is, okay? Where trines are nope, this is happening whether you like it or not, and it most likely will be beneficial and easy for you. So Mars and Virgo, guys, this is, and sextiling Jupiter, because that really is the theme of this video today. And I want to just cruise through talking points and kind of give you some of my thoughts on how this will be manifesting, of course. And again, back to that word devotion, right? Jupiter in Cancer, devotion can be a word there. What are we going to devote ourselves to? Jupiter wants to grow us, expand our minds, expand our consciousness. It wants to expand our emotional capacity, our emotional intelligence. It wants us to grow emotionally. While we're dealing with those squares, of course, to the early degrees of Aries, which is really about us coming into some new version of selfhood there. And I've talked extensively about Saturn and Neptune and Aries, and even not the last two videos, but the first couple of videos, my June forecast, another video I did on Jupiter and Cancer, two other videos I did on Jupiter and Cancer. I talk about these squares to the early degrees of Aries and how these squares for the month of June into July, which will be the most strong, of course, because Jupiter will start moving on past those early degrees of Aries, right? Because Neptune and Saturn will go retrograde at 0 and 1 degree Aries, and Jupiter will just start moving on, and the squares to the early degrees of Aries won't be that strong. So we really just have June and then mid-June with this opportunity from the sextile coming from Mars to Jupiter to kind of give us, again, this is where the medicine's going to be, to kind of move ourselves in the right direction that probably will also tie in to that square. Mars also rules Aries, so of course Mars's influence in Virgo will have some light to shine there. It will be sprinkling some energies from Virgo into the Aries transits that are going on. So again, there's a lot coming from mid-June into late June, of course, with a Jupiter Cazimi, a new moon in Cancer. Okay, stay tuned for the next video because that's what we're talking about. And this really does start like a whole new chapter as Jupiter in Cancer kind of gets going. So it's just like such an interesting way that astrology weaves into each other. Jupiter enters Cancer, squaring the early degrees of Aries. We're immediately being faced with some tension, challenge involving those two parts of our lives. Mars finally gets out of Leo. So the Leo part of our life is kind of like, okay, what did we learn here from all this Mars stuff and this Mars retrograde that kind of tore up my life all winter with Cancer in the emotional space of our life, wherever Cancer is in your birth chart. whatever Leo is, what was Mars doing, right? As it was going direct all these last couple of months. Now it's going to find itself in Virgo, sextiling immediately Jupiter, again, providing an opportunity for methodical motivation, for disciplined energies, and the warrior becomes the technician. Okay, so this is where we get to work and solve problems and get to some very, very possible subtle solutions, small steps, right? Methodical. Think about that word, methodical. This is one after another. This isn't about rushing. This isn't about just throwing 1,000 things against a wall and seeing what's going to stick like a Gemini would do. No offense, Geminis. But this is different, okay? This is a different type of a Mercury-ruled energy where it's all about precision. It's all about getting clear before we really we're going to take action, right? We're going to really figure out some things, but it's about taking notes slowly. It's about taking things one by one. You know what I mean? So yeah, guys, we're going to cruise through whatever I feel is necessary talking about today. I'm not going to run down transits that we're currently involved with. You can go watch some of my recent videos that were before the full moon video. So again, watch some of the June forecast stuff if you want more insights on like Jupiter Cazimi coming up next, the new moon in Cancer coming up next. So I'm not going to touch on the new moon in Cancer that's coming, or the Jupiter Cazimi, which is literally happening like a day or two before the new moon. I think it's a day before the new moon in Cancer happens, which is really, really significant because Jupiter will have an enlightenment purification before it's conjunct this new moon. So I can't wait to make a video talking about the new moon in Cancer. But today I just want to stick to Mars in Virgo, sextiling Jupiter in Cancer. I want to dive into possibly just the first decan of Virgo and the tarot card that's associated with the first decan of Virgo, just for educational purposes. I mean, I really focus more on the lunation cycles with the decans and the tarot cards. But because I work with the decans, and I really enjoy, of course, teaching people about tarot symbolism, like this is just, why not? Like, why don't we just talk about the first decan of Virgo for a hot second and the tarot card that's associated with it? Because I think that is also very timely for, again, the first 10 degrees of Virgo is occupied by the first decan. So this is, possibly a really nice thing to bring into the conversation. And I'm sure you guys will enjoy the information. That all being said, I hope you're enjoying this video thus far, my friends. And just for a brief moment, I'd like to pause the video and just say to anyone who is new watching this video, or if you've watched any of my other videos and have not subscribed yet, I would love if you can consider subscribing to the channel, liking the video, hitting that notification bell. All that stuff really helps the channel's growth, my friends. And we've been building such a beautiful community here over the last couple of months, and I couldn't be more thrilled and honored to be here for you, to be a teacher for you, whatever you view me as. I'm just glad to show up every week and to provide astrological insights. And and I hope that my work always keeps you grounded, practical, also very in touch with the spiritual realms, of course. I do view all of this stuff as an evolutionary process of our soul and spirit, but also we have to be very real about our mundane life, and we need to understand how we can navigate this life with greater intention and purpose. And I just want to always empower you to kind of be as present as possible with these transits, and to be as aligned as possible as we observe these transits unfold, and to realize we're not going to be able to control everything, but we can just observe and understand that we can show up in a better place emotionally and spiritually and psychologically as these transits unfold. So that all being said, if you'd like to book a reading with me, I have openings in July and starting in August right now. So, if you want to plan ahead and try to see if you'd like to book a reading with me, I'd love to navigate with you. Anything that you would like to talk about, anything going on in your life, and we could talk about the transits happening and so many other things. Okay, so links down below. Go to my website, book yourself a reading, learn more about me. And I usually share extra announcements during this little little middle part of the video. I don't really have much to share, guys, except I'm working really hard behind the scenes on developing education stuff coming in early 2026. And I may have just one type of webinar or class coming in the fall. But yeah, my friends, but in the meantime, I hope you enjoy the videos. And once again, I am a consulting astrologer every day of my life. So, please do connect with me if you would like to. That all being said, let's get right back into the video, and we'll start talking about the Decan first and then get into more information about Mars Virgo going and sextiling Jupiter in Cancer. All right, my friends, now let's talk about this first Decan of Virgo, and we're going to do our best to cruise through the rest of this video, by the way, as well. I don't want to make this video 35 minutes long, as I know my videos have been so long lately. But yeah, and like I said earlier, I don't usually talk about the Decans with planetary transits, really just new moons and full moons, only because I see the most results when I study the new moons and the full moons with the Decans, honestly, and using the tarot card associations with them. And again, I'm going to be doing a massive Decan course actually next year, and that's going to be really, really powerful, guys. I can't wait to reveal some of the details on this, but studying the Decans and observing just anything involving them is always fascinating. And I feel just for the sake of education, we could talk about what Decan Mars will be entering and what does this symbolically represent for the first 10 degrees of Mars transiting through Virgo. And maybe as we go through the middle of June into July, maybe we can circle back and talk about if we've noticed wow, that kind of is the energy that Mars was kind of showing me as it was sextiling Jupiter. Now, the first Decan of Virgo is ruled by the Sun. And the tarot card associated with that is the Eight of Pentacles. Now, what's interesting about Virgo and the Decans and the tarot cards is this is the last three cards of the Pentacles suit, okay, which is the last of the story of Pentacles, okay? So we're dealing with the Eight of Pentacles first Decan, Nine of Pentacles second Decan, and the Ten of Pentacles third Decan, right? And all the Earth signs before that, we were building up a story. So that's really what the tarot minor arcanas, in my opinion, are always painting a picture of. From the second Two of Pentacles all the way up to, or the Ace of Pentacles all the way up to the Ten of Pentacles, there is a story unfolding, usually to an end of some kind. And with the Pentacles, we are discussing the last three cards when we are building up to a place of hard work, culmination, and success, okay? Because that last tarot card, the Ten of Pentacles, oh my God, I'm really jumbling my words today. Is about again that culmination, right? Wealth, that kind of coming home to legacy of some kind. So it's the story is finally concluding, and there is a culmination here. The Eight of Pentacles, though, okay, this is about hard work and focus. This is about mastery and commitment. So really getting committed, really getting aligned and focused. So this is a very powerful, in my opinion, Zen Buddhist energy for some reason I'm getting. Because if you really think about a Zen Buddhist, right, they engage life with discipline, and they don't necessarily believe in God, so to speak, not even to go that far in a spiritual sense. They believe in showing up every day to sit on the cushion, to meditate, and to engage life with mindfulness, and to treat the mundane world chop wood and carry water, right? That is the essence of a Zen Buddhist proverb, right? Show up every day, get your hands dirty, hard work and focus. And that will get you aligned. That will get you in flow, potentially with maybe God's intention to literally exist in the here and now and to manifest whatever we are focusing our lives on. And by focusing in a present moment awareness, we can really become very, very masterful at what we're trying to build in our life. So if you really notice anything you try to build or create in your life, yeah, you have a plan set out, but more than half of the time, it's about showing up every day. It's about sitting on that cushion. It's about sinking into your discipline, right? And the Eight of Pentacles represents diligence, craftsmanship, hard work, and mastery. It often shows a person focused on carving or creating pentacles. That's the image that we're talking about here, symbolizing dedication to their craft or learning a skill. So this really is a time for learning, for hard work and focus with Mars, okay, in these first 10 degrees. Mastery. So again, we're dealing with persistence. We're dealing with, we need to get serious about a method. We need to get serious about being motivated and methodical. So Mars in Virgo could not be happier, in my opinion, in this first decan. And because the sun rules this decan, we are dealing with an illumination, okay? This is a very beautiful, and when the sun ruled decans are very positive in influence, of course, they really can provide us with extra luminosity to show up and to expand potentially there. So with Mars, again, Mars rules Aries, okay? And the sun is the sun is exalted in Aries. So, just to even link some of that symbolism together is very important. So the Eight of Pentacles is a beautiful card to show up for, and the Sun, a beautiful decan to begin a Mars in Virgo transit. And I would say every Mars in Virgo transit ever began with this type of energy in all of our lives. So please tell me in your birth chart, where's Virgo? And how is this aspect in Cancer with Jupiter there? Because I think this is really, we're all going to get that motivating fire lit under our ass, but not in a way where it's like Leo, like, oh my God, I need to take over now. I need to really, take over the world. And it's like the ego gets involved with Mars and Virgo, Mars and Leo, which we have to be careful with. And I'm sure you have got stories maybe, and please share your Mars and Leo stories if you have any, if any ego shit was involved. But with Mars and Virgo, this is not about that. This is not about that. This is about being a Zen Buddhist. Okay, this is about being a contemplative monk, right? Or whatever faith system you believe in, right? Think about all the monastic type of energies that exist within certain spiritual traditions. And when we deal with the sextile to Jupiter, we could deal with a little bit of that. I'm not trying to say this is a monk or a nun or a Zen Buddhist energy or even like a shaman behind the scenes, like doing his ritual in private before he goes out for a ceremony. This is, even though it could be a little bit like that, but it's deeper than that. It's more subtle than that. And it's more, I think, focused and motivated. Okay. So when we deal, but at the same time, going back to that monastic Zen Buddhist or kind of like monk nun energy, whatever you want to, whatever spiritual archetype you would like to attach to this. The point of the matter is it's about getting quiet. It's about being methodical with your prayer, your meditation, the way you engage every day with life. Okay. So yeah, I feel like I just jumbled my words there a little bit, my friends. I do apologize for that. But my point is that Mars and Virgo in these early degrees are about being methodical. Okay, that's really motivated, methodical, having focus, working hard. Okay, go to any monastery, and I know I'm going on a tangent with fucking monastery shit right now, but think about it. People think when you go to ordain as a monk or a nun or whatever the case may be, that your life is all about doing nothing. It isn't. You're actually working really hard to keep a monastery running, right? So there's a lot of hard work and focus and devotion, back to devotion in the beginning of the video, that is going to go into really getting something up and running. Okay. And it's a very subtle spiritual process. Okay. And Jupiter in Cancer is going to be providing more of that spiritual essence. Okay. In my opinion, more of that emotional expansion from that Cancer part of your life. Okay. Now always remember, the axis of where this sextile is forming and happening in your birth chart, these are where the stories are playing out. So this is why it's so important to know the house topics at the very least in your birth chart. Okay. Well, not the very least, you should. So what houses and themes of life are being activated here. For me, my 11th house of Virgo is being activated and my 9th house of Cancer is being activated. And I talked about those aspects in my chart of my life in the last, in the beginning of the month. And for me, this is really, again, a lot of my transits are about growing my astrological business and being more aligned with my work, of course. So, and having like a YouTube audience is still a very, very new thing to me, especially so many of you guys. So for me, showing up like in a new way, I think maybe in a more, I don't know, there's going to be some differences probably in the way I make videos maybe, or the way I approach my content. So, and that has a lot to do with Jupiter and Cancer expanding me emotionally and getting more in tune with my belief systems, my personal philosophies, and showing up as a teacher, of course. And my Mars retrograde stories over the winter had a lot to do with how I'm going to be experiencing Jupiter and Cancer, I'm sure of. So Mars getting into Virgo, where my midheaven is like 3 degrees, okay? So we're dealing with, for me, like, boom, Mars comes in and it wants me to provide more sacred service. It wants me to become more of a warrior technician, if you will. It wants my energy to become more disciplined. Joe, how can you become more disciplined for your YouTube audience, for your videos, for whatever the case may be? Because the 11th house for me, the only thing the 11th house in my life represents is how I'm showing up to work for pretty much like people, like classroom stuff, right? I'm trying to develop classes for the future. So I'm thinking about collective eyeballs in mind, you beautiful souls in mind, as I'm developing a lot of things. And this summer probably will be a big summer for me as I'm designing and figuring out how I want to produce coursework, you know? So that's kind of how it's manifesting for me. So again, this 8 of Pentacles is going to be alive and well for the first 10 degrees of Virgo for me, as it's going to be cruising over my midheaven. So that's really important to understand. Emotional intelligence in action is a talking point, we can say, for Jupiter and Cancer sextiling Mars and Virgo. So Mars and Virgo brings drive to fix, improve, and serve. Jupiter and Cancer expands emotional wisdom and compassion. So that's really important to note. Constructive criticism is also probably going to be a thing. Gentle progress. Mars and Virgo has a tendency to critique. No, duh. That's how we become more masterful. But Jupiter and Cancer wants to soften this with kindness. So this support from Jupiter is going to be lovely for the Mars and Virgo stuff, guys, because this is where we're also going to expand intuitively, emotionally, and this is going to soften some of that maybe rigorous Virgo intensity. Okay, because again, if we go balls to the wall, Mars and Virgo, we could burn out. We could get a little too perfectionist. Think about all the shadows of Virgo. We can get a little too OCD. We can get a little too critical of ourselves and others that we're involved in. Okay, especially if Virgo's in a social house for you. I have to be careful that I'm not getting too critical over, or too obsessive over thinking I need to get everything figured out for class and course design. And believe it or not, guys, I mean, the things that I'm trying to develop are huge, and it's not going to happen overnight. And I have to keep reminding myself every day, hey, this is going to take months to design and to figure out how you actually want to approach teaching people. You know, and I mean, I've taught before in local settings, right? In my local areas here, but expanding in the online world is a whole different dimension, guys. So I have to remind myself, and I need Jupiter's help from my 9th house to soften and expand me more emotionally and spiritually as I'm navigating this process very grounded, methodically, okay, to really connect the mind and the body. Okay, so this is really important. Virgo rules routines too, and physical health. So we need to be careful about our physical body and what we do physically, actually, in the Virgo part of our life, regardless of what's going on. And Mars, of course, is very much a body-oriented planet. Action, will, assertiveness, our body, right? So we need to understand that Jupiter is also going to provide maybe some health and wellness advice, you know, emotional well-being energies towards us. This transit supports initiatives that bring emotional healing to the body potentially. So we need to be open to that, to things that can be going on within this hard work, motivational, methodical space, and whatever we are entangling ourselves with, that there is a chance and opportunity for us to emotionally heal through it. So this is a great opportunity, guys, to heal any trauma or issues you have in the Virgo part of your life, guys. So again, I know we have issues, shadows, traumas in every zodiac sign in our birth chart, essentially, you know, from a spiritual perspective, from a karmic perspective. We all incarnated here on Earth to both experience the light and the shadow aspects of every dimension of our birth chart. And this is a beautiful time to look at that Virgo part of your life and go, okay, Jupiter is giving us an opportunity. Again, sextiles are not guarantees. They are doors that are open and we can walk through them if we want. And, you know, this is a beautiful moment for us to expand psychically, intuitively, emotionally, and really, heal something in the Virgo part of our life, guys. So I want you to remember that this really is a time to work with heart, emotion, intuition, keep your psychic fields clean, okay? And this work will support integrity-driven service and integrity-driven motivations. And I want you guys to stay aligned with that truth. Okay, Jupiter, this sextile is gorgeous. And this will also, I think, help the Aries part of our life too, guys. This will help that square, that Neptune and Saturn stuff. The adventure that we are now all embarking upon, the challenges and the shifts and the changes from that Neptune and Saturn are trying to birth in that part of our life. That Aries part of our life very much will be affected, I think, by this sextile. And Mars in Virgo will be shaping something there and will be influencing something there as well, as far as that square is concerned. Okay? Because like for me, I know the sixth house of Aries for me will also tie into this story. Okay, it really will tie into this story because the sixth house for me is very much tied to what's going on in my ninth house by that square and the sextile that's going to happen from Mars to Jupiter. Even though it's not directly influencing by any aspect, Aries will still play into the story. Okay, very, very much so. So that's really up for you to meditate into, guys. So healing is action, sacred service, mind-body connection. These are important, guys. Those are three just last little points there. Healing is action, sacred service, motivation may be drawn towards solving problems, of course, refining systems, getting emotional with what you're doing every day, what you are working on, feeling into it. Don't just Virgo intellectualize it. Don't just show up every day and like obsess. Feel into the Virgo. Try to bring that emotional, spiritual depth to the Virgo part of your life and see where the opening is. See where the opportunity is for Mars to engage into solving something, okay, that needs solving. So that all being said, my friends, I think that's all I have for you today. Last minute advice, again, always be kind to yourself. Really do your best to learn your birth charts, learn your astrology the best you can. I can't wait to teach you in a more serious way in the future. If you guys are interested in learning astrology in the way that I view astrology, okay? And my goal is to always empower you to not be defeated by astrology, of course, because a lot of people have defeatist, very negative views of squares and oppositions. And my goal is to really merge an essence of like Buddhist thought and shamanic practice, okay? Like I'm a very spiritual man, but this idea of the way we show up present with transits, to be mindful, to observe transits happening as they unfold, to be aligned and focused as we can react and act upon transits that are manifesting, and then to get shamanic about it because we all have the power to change our destiny. We all have the power to alter timelines, and getting shamanic is very, very important. So I can't wait to be a teacher for you guys in the future to help you through more of planetary transits that I want you to feel into and to solve on your own, guys. I don't want to just be a teacher that tells you what to do. I want you to live astrology, you know? So that all being said, that's all I have for this video, and I will see you in the next one.